Hey, what's up guys? I am Chase here at Rocky Mountain ATVMC, and these are my top 5 tips for riding tracks and trails in the sand. So depending on who you ask, sand is an absolute blast to ride in, whether it's a sandy trail, sandy track, or a GNCC or a works race. But I'm gonna tell you right now, sand is a beast. It has a mind of its own, and it takes a lot of practice to really get confident so you can feel like you can go fast in sand. So what I wanna do today is I just wanna show you my top 5 tips that come to bike setup and helping you get prepared so you can go out and have a really good time in the sand and get the most performance out of your bike. Okay, so for my first tip, it's gonna be with your bike setup. And what I'm really talking about is gonna be more about your suspension. When you're riding in sand, you want your front tire to be as light as possible. You almost want it to just float on top of the sand. That's gonna help prevent it from diving when you're braking or diving when you're coming into corners. So there's a few tips that you can do to help get your bike set up to really help keep that front tire light and on top of the sand. The first one is gonna be with your sag. Now what I always recommend doing, this is what I do and a lot of professional riders do, is they'll actually increase the sag on their bike. So what they'll do, so if you're around say 100 millimeters of sag, well, what you can do is try going to 103 or maybe 105 millimeters of sag. So you'll always want to look at your owner's manual. They're going to give you a window of what your sag should be in. So look at that first. But what adding sag to your bike does, it helps the rear end squat just a little bit more. So when the bike's squatting, it's taking load and weight off the front. It's gonna help it stay higher up and lighter. Now to measure your sag, we have a how-to video if you've never done that before, so make sure you give that a watch. But to do it, you see a simple tool. You can use a sag scale like this Tusk one here. You're gonna need a buddy to help you out doing it this way. Or if you're going solo, we have the Motool digital sag scale, which actually lets you measure your sag by yourself. But adjusting your sag, adding a few millimeters really helps with the balance of the bike. Now at the front, a couple tips that I have is gonna be with your clickers. So what I like to do on my forks is I like to go, say, 2 to 3 clicks stiffer on the compression. And the reason I do that is it just helps the fork stay a little bit higher up in the stroke, so it's not gonna dive as much, and it just helps it stay higher up on the sand. Now my third tip with your suspension is gonna be lowering your forks in your triple clamps. And this is something that a lot of riders will do in the sand. And this is really gonna help with high speed stability, because sand tracks and sandy trails are really known for getting really bumpy, a lot of whoops. You can even get some of that small chatter too. So what riders will do is you take your forks and you drop them in your clamps. Now you wanna look at your manual for this as well. You don't wanna drop them too far. You wanna stay within the spec. But dropping those, what it'll do is it'll lengthen out the bike and it'll make it more stable at those higher speeds. So for me personally, on this 17 Honda, I've dropped them 2.5 millimeters. I've even seen guys drop them all the way down flush. So my second tip is gonna be gearing down your bike. And what I mean when I say gearing down is either adding teeth to your rear sprocket or taking them away in the front. And what this does, it's just gonna get better acceleration and more torque on your motorcycle, because sand is so deep, it just puts a lot more load on the bike and it's harder to accelerate. And so with your 454 strokes and your 252 strokes, these bikes already have so much power to them and torque, really it's not as big of a deal. So when I'm gearing down a bigger bike, usually 1 to 2 teeth is all I need to do. But for your smaller displacement bikes, this can have a much bigger difference. And I've actually seen riders go 2, even 3 teeth added to the rear. Now, if you don't understand gearing that well and you want to learn more about it, well, make sure you watch our gearing guide video. I explain it in full detail. I answer all your questions about it. But that's gonna be my second tip, is gearing down your bike to take load off the motor and give you better acceleration. So for tip number 3, it's gonna be with tire choice. Now what I'm referring to is running a sand tire. We've got a lot of these to choose from at Rocky Mountain. So if you've ever been to a real sand race, whether it's the works race in Sand Hollow or Mesquite, or maybe you've been to Southwick where they race motocross, you're gonna see all your top level riders are using a sand tire. And what makes these so good in the sand or even in the mud is that they're almost a hybrid between a paddle tire for the dunes and a knobby tire. You can see the tread blocks are thinner, so they dig into the sand better, and they have a crescent shape to them, which is gonna help give that drive. So hands down, the best tire choice when you're riding in sand is gonna be a sand tire. But the next best option, if you don't wanna go with the sand tire, is just make sure you get a nice soft terrain tire. But that's gonna be my third tip, is tire choice. So my fourth tip is gonna be all about your air filter. You gotta remember, when you're riding in sand, sand gets everywhere, including down your pants. Now, I can't help you with getting sand in your pants, but what I'm referring to is helping you not get sand into your AIRBOX. You get sand in there, it is not a good thing. So always make sure when it comes to your air filter, make sure you're using plenty of oil. If you have questions about air filter maintenance, watch the video that we have, we explain that to you. But what I always like to do when I'm riding in sand is I'll use filter skins. Now, filter skins, they're inexpensive, and what they are, they come in different sizes. They're just gonna go right over the top of your air filter. They just create a second barrier, and it helps prevent getting sand and dust into your AIRBOX. Another great thing about them is they're gonna come 3 in a pack, so when one gets dirty, you can just take it off, put another one on, and you're good to go. So it's gonna prolong the life of your air filter, so you don't have to clean those as often. And once you're done with all 3, you can just wash these the same way that you would with your air filter. So filter skins is one thing that I always like to run in the sand to help prevent getting sand and dust in there. Another way you can do it is if you're rocking a twin air filter, they make this really cool product. It's just an air filter cover, super inexpensive. And just like with the filter skins, it goes right over the top of it, and it's just gonna give you that second barrier. Again, it's giving that peace of mind that you're not gonna suck sand and dust into your AIRBOX. So that's gonna be my 4th tip, is taking care of your air filter and protecting your motor. So for my 5th and final tip, it's gonna be all about vision. Now, this is really gonna be more applicable to your race situations. I mean, we got 10, 20, 30 riders on the gate, and I learned this the hard way not too long ago in my Mesquite Works race when I ran out of tear-offs on the first lap, and I still had 40 minutes to go. So you wanna make sure you have plenty of tear-offs, or you're rocking a roll-off system. If it's gonna be a muddy race, hands down, roll-offs are the way to go. But what you wanna do if you're doing tear-offs is don't just do 1 stack. You can do more than 1 stack. You can do 2, you can even do 3 stacks and have 21 tear-offs. With roll-offs, you're usually gonna get about 50 pulls. So really, the moral of the story is you wanna make sure you have enough tear-offs or you have a roll-off system so you're gonna get good vision throughout the entire race. So that's gonna be my 5th tip, is having clear vision. All right, guys, so those are my top 5 tips when it comes to riding on sandy trails or sand tracks. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of great tips and suggestions as well, so make sure to write those below. And also, let us know where your favorite place to ride in the sand is. Head over to our website at RockyMountainATVMC.com to get all the parts you need to get ready for your next sand ride. I'm Chase here at Rocky Mountain, and we'll see you on the trails.